Hey guys, as you all may know, I am one of the classmates in your Introduction to Ethnic Studies class. My name is Samantha Altamirano, and for my final project for this class, I wanted to take it to a whole new, not level, but just a whole new perspective. So with that being said, I decided to come up with a short film with the help of many students here at the University of Wisconsin-Parkside and kind of just go over the definition of what is an American. So these students, on their own will, decided to share their own stories of who they are, where they are from, and their own interpretations of what it means to be an American. So I hope you guys all enjoy, and if there's any questions, just let me know, and yeah, roll it on. Does that work out for you or no?
I'll just, yeah.
You asked me.
Oh, my name is.
Wait, hold on.
You contribute to the
is that how
economy. Yeah, how you define American, like why do you define yourself as an American? Are you
Name,
sure?
age, ethnicity, story of self, how I define American, and why do you consider yourself American? Okay.
Hi, my name is Carla Mudo.
Hi, my name is Kevin Martinez.
My name is Maria Rodriguez.
My name is Ray Jose. I am 23 years old.
I'm 21 years old.
I am 22 years old.
I'm 21.
My major is applied health science with a concentration in physical therapy. My year, I am a junior.
I'm a psychology major with a minor in criminal justice. I'm a student here at the University of Wisconsin-Parkside. I was a transfer student from Gateway.
I'm a sophomore at University of Wisconsin-Parkside, and I study communications.
I am Filipino.
I consider myself Mexican-American, although I was born in Mexico.
I am Mexican-American. In the United States, we are seen as Latinos.
I am Hispanic. I was brought here when I was 1, so I pretty much grew up here my whole entire life. I've been living in Milwaukee since I was 3, and I've resided there ever since then. I decided to come to Parkside to continue my studies and hope to graduate in a couple of years and move on to graduate school.
Well, I was born in Mexico, Mexico City, Mexico. I came over here when I was 4. I grew up here all my life, and I consider myself an undocumented American.
I came here when I was 8 years old. Me and my parents and my siblings, we came over in a plane. We came with the tourist visa, and we eventually overstayed our time here. So I grew up here. I lived most of my life here in the United States.
And a little bit about myself. I came to the United States in 2000 with my family in search of the American dream. I grew up thinking like I was like everyone else, and it wasn't until my senior year of high school that I found out that I was undocumented. I had grown up knowing the language, assimilating to the culture, and just playing all the American pastimes. And come my senior year, I found out that all of that was not true. That it all came down to a certain piece of paper stating that I was a resident of the United States. And I didn't have that. My family and I had overstayed our tourist visa, and we were under the petition of my aunt. We were under the sponsorship of my aunt, and unfortunately after I turned 18, I was no longer under that sponsorship. And it's been 14 years and nothing's happened for my parents or my mom. And along with my sister as well, who is also undocumented. So come my senior year, I came home with scholarships for different schools, and I was so excited to tell my parents, and I told them that the burden of college wouldn't be as heavy on their shoulders, And that's when my mom broke down in tears and she said in our native language of Tagalog, "Anak, pagbigyan mo ako," which means, "My son, please forgive me." And then she began to explain that we had overstayed our tourist visa. And what that meant for me is that I couldn't accept those scholarships, I couldn't get financial aid, and I would have to pay out-of-state tuition. So knowing that college would be that much harder made it harder for me to get up out of bed every single day after that. I saw that any test, any homework that I would turn in from then on didn't matter. It wouldn't help me get into any colleges. But on the day of my graduation, my dad gave me an envelope and he said to me, "No matter what, we're already proud of you." And inside was enough money for one semester's tuition at my community college. And from then on, I knew the sacrifices that my family had made for me. I saw that my dad had worked in and day out to put a roof over my head and clothes on my back. And my mom would take any job that came her way. And my sister, who was only 2 years older than me, stopped going to school so that I would be able to go.
I define myself as American because I have accustomed to all the holidays and the customs of the American lifestyle. I consider myself American because this is what I call home. If I were to go back to Mexico, I'd be really lost. So this is my home.
Big question is how I define America. I think everybody has their own interpretation of how they define themselves, and I define myself American because I grew up here in the United States. This is all I know, but also because I contributed to this country as well as other people have contributed to this country. I think I've earned to be an American, just like Jose Vargas always tells people, how do they define American? And it's always a question that I wonder what people think. I also think that everybody who lives in North America, South America, it's considered an American because they live and they're grown in this continent. And a concept that I'm still trying to figure out is why the United States takes control over the word American. Why, when you think of American, you think of the United States. But why don't you think of the rest of the continents that have American in their name?
When you ask me, how do I define American? I go back to the Declaration of Independence where it says, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they're endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, and among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness." And that when someone asks me, define American, that's what I thought when I was coming to the United States. That's what I learned in school. That all of these things are attainable if you work hard, go to school, and do the right things. But unfortunately, because along with myself and other people in my community, that we don't have these certain pieces of papers that states that we're residents of this country, that we have come to, that we've planted our roots in, that we call our homes. All these things are unattainable to us. I myself, I was not able to continue my education, neither was my sister. My father, who owned his own business, is no longer to start a business here in the United States. My mother, who is a registered nurse back in the Philippines, cannot practice her career. These are things that my parents have a degree in. I want to become a nurse myself, but unfortunately, even if I get that degree, I wouldn't be able to use it. But there are things like deferred action and things that have been coming out that we see as wins in our community, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's the end-all be-all. There's always something else to fight for at the end of the day. And why do I consider myself American is because I've lived in this country since I was 9. And if I were to go back home to the Philippines, I wouldn't know anything. I would be considered an outsider. I speak the language fluently still, but I call Rockville, Maryland home.
The way I define American is taking on the traditions of America, of the U.S. With that, I embrace all their culture. I embrace their holidays. I celebrate the 4th of July. That's what I was brought up celebrating. I do consider myself American because this is what I know mostly. I have not gone back to Mexico since the age of 1. I don't know much of Mexico's culture. I only know what my parents have taught me. And I grew up knowing all of the U.S. history. I grew up knowing everything from here. So I do consider myself to be American. And I believe that anyone who has grew up here, who has accustomed to these traditions, is also to be considered American.
Okay, thank you.